Welcome back to Frontend Hire. Today we will discuss how I pushed a feature to handle some mobile navigation improvements. So one of the users of the platform had this issue where if you open the navigation on a mobile screen, on a smaller screen, this collapses. And when you trigger it and try to navigate, the page does navigate, but the sheet is still open. So ideally you want to close this navigation when you navigate to a different page. So this was missing and it was actually a bug if you ask me. And I did fix it, and I also wrote a LinkedIn post, and it did go a bit viral in terms of engagement at least. Of course, this post lacks quite a bit of context on why I did it and what was the reason behind it. But in this post, I was actually discussing a React pattern, which I will also discuss pretty soon. And yeah, we will be solving this. Even though I did fix this issue, there's a small edge case there, which we will fix with the better solution. And I will also show you the thought process that goes in approaching such a feature. And I think it would be helpful for you folks. So that's why I'm making this. All right, now I'll go through how I approach this feature. So first I went to my code base. The file which deals with my sidebar is app sidebar, and it's a generic component located in my components folder. It's used across the app, so I didn't feel like putting it in a dedicated folder or something. And you can see that I don't have a component that deals with mobile specific stuff. So it's a single component that is handled on both desktop and mobile. That's how the shadcn sidebar component works. So you see there's a link here, there's a link here, and there's a link here. So basically we want to close the sidebar when the user clicks on the link. So I figured this seems a pretty basic thing, which I think shadcn should have supported. So I went to the docs, just checking if I missed something. And I'll take you to the docs. So I was navigating in the docs and I figured it's in the sidebar menu button. That's the component I'm using here. And it had nothing except for using link or anchor as a child prop. So I figured if it's not there in the documentation, at least someone else would have had this issue. And I went to their GitHub issues and I did search for something like sidebar close on mobile. I figured a couple of people would have this issue. So there was this issue. Close mobile sidebar on menu button click, and there was close sidebar on item click, and this had a lot more conversation, so I figured I'll go into this. And yeah, this is the exact issue I have. It's still an open issue. Let's see what was the problem here. A lot of people asking to fix this, and there was one solution which recommends using the set open mobile from the use sidebar. I think it's a context. So they provide a hook which gives you this set open mobile. Interesting. And then hook into Next.js link, and they are doing it on click. So I did see this solution. It felt weird because the link was having a href and also an on click. So I wasn't sure if this was a good solution yet. It had good upvotes, but I immediately liked this solution from Jason, even though even he agrees that this is a viable workaround, but it is an anti-pattern, which was using an effect to figure out when to close the sidebar. So he was using the path name, and whenever the path name changes, he is running this effect, which closes the sidebar. So I figured this is nice, even though it uses useEffect. And I figured I'll just go for this solution right now. So in fact, let's just try this out. I'm just going to copy it. And if we see, I have my app sidebar here, and this is not a client component. So I'll also have to turn this into a client component. So I'm just going to paste this solution here. It uses the sidebar. Let me import that. It uses path name from next navigation, and it also imports React. Now I'm using hooks in my React component. So it has to be a client component given that I'm in a Next.js codebase. Next.js codebase with app router, so I should be converting that to a client component. So let's see if this fixes the issue. All right, let me go back to mobile screen. Let me navigate to dashboard. Right, this works. Let me navigate to headlines. So this does close the sidebar. So yeah, this is a viable solution and a pretty quick one. So I didn't want to leave it like this. I figured there's a good amount of logic here. At least that's something that does useEffect. I want to abstract this logic out into a custom hook. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to just first put it in a hook. I'm just going to call it use close sidebar on mobile navigate. Yeah, this is a good name, I would say. I'm just going to copy paste this stuff here. This is a custom hook that returns nothing. it is possible. Your hooks do not have to return anything. And I'm just going to use this. So this works. It looks weird, but this definitely works. It's basically you're just organizing your code. This is same as just putting all your logic here. And I can just show that here. If you go to post, the sidebar would close. Right. So this works, but the problem with this is I had to turn my entire component into a client component, and I'm not taking much advantage of the server stuff. Honestly, this is not a big issue. This is completely fine, keeping my sidebar as a client component. At least in my app, I don't care about server-side rendering. But I have a small trick where I use a different way of doing things, and that's what I wanted to show, and that's what was also the LinkedIn post was about. So instead of creating a custom hook, I'm going to create a component that encapsulates this logic. I'm going to call it close sidebar on mobile navigate. Same name as the hook, except I just remove the use part of things. And I'm just going to copy paste this logic here. Now that this is a component, it has to return something. And ideally, null is a valid React child, React node. So you can return null. And now instead of using the hook, I am going to use the React component. And I'm creating a fragment because leaving this component inside the sidebar will cause issues because it won't render. If you look at the sidebar function, which shadcn gives you, on mobile, it renders it inside a sheet content. So that doesn't trigger till the sheet is open. So you'll have some infinite loops. So you don't want that. So that's the reason I opened a React fragment and just put this sidebar code mobile navigate part of things outside the sidebar. It is still inside the sidebar provider, which is located in my layout file. I'll just show you the layout file so that we are on the same page. Yeah, you can see the sidebar provider. This is inside, app sidebar lives inside the sidebar provider. Ignore this. This was my initial solution. So yeah, close sidebar on mobile navigate has access to the use sidebar context. So this will also work. The advantage with this solution is I don't need to use the use client part of things here. In the sense, I could just remove the use client. I could remove this custom hook. I can put this function in a different file. And that is what I did with this particular component here, close sidebar on mobile path change. So that is the same component. So let me just remove this component too, and I'm just gonna import it again. I think I've named it differently. Close sidebar on mobile path change. So the advantage of using a component instead of using a hook here is I don't have to mark my entire app sidebar as use client because I'm not using any of the hooks. Whereas this close sidebar on mobile path change will use client, and it is contained to just that piece of logic. In fact, this is just same as, let's say, I create a hook here to make things even more explicit. Use close sidebar on mobile path change, and I can just put this logic in here and just call this thing. So technically, these are the same, doing the same things. And this is a pattern I like to use. I sometimes prefer this over using a hook just because I don't want to mark my entire component as use client or something, right? It's more like a presentation container pattern. And this particular pattern, right, it's used out there in production code bases. It's apparently called renderless components that render nothing. And I was looking at a couple of things and I realized Vercel's analytics also works in a similar way. So Vercel's analytics, you can use this analytics, you use this component in the body. Of course, it imports the script and everything, but it's still not rendering anything. So they also use something similar. So yeah, and if you have ever used this pattern where you return nothing from the component and encapsulate this logic, I would love to hear what the use case was. I've done this quite a bit, but most of the times it was to encapsulate logic like this or some WebSockets logic or something like that. Let's look back at the solutions. This was not a great solution, by the way, in the sense this effect part of things, not the pattern. I'm not talking about the pattern. I'm talking about the actual logic because there's an edge case here, which I will show you right now. So what happens if I navigate back to dashboard from dashboard? You see, the navigation doesn't close because the path name did not change. So small edge case, and I don't want to overcomplicate this stuff. And now I'm interested in the other solution these folks had, which was doing it on click. My only concern was, can a link take a href and an on click? So I was doing a bit of search. I used ChatGPT to know if this is possible. They say it's possible. They say it's a progressive enhancement also, because you can use the on click to track link clicks, analytic events, confirmation dialog, something like that. And I also asked Claude the same thing. It gave me a bit better answer. And I also searched some Stack Overflow just to be on the safer side. And again, most answers say it's completely valid. I also went to MDN docs to see if this is fine. They say anchor elements are often abused as fake buttons by setting their href to hashtag or JavaScript void. But this is not what I'm doing. I still have a proper link. And they also suggest use a button instead. I could also do that, but I'll tell you why you should be using a link, because again, it has to do with accessibility and SEO part of things. Now again, GitHub issues are fine. It still doesn't tell me any answer from shadcn himself, right? Or the one of the beta developers or something like that. So I figured shadcn should also be using something similar, right? He also has a navigation and it opens a sheet. And how is this thing working? Let's assume I click on dark mode. That closes the navigation. So I figured shadcn is also using this. And I went to the exact code base, exact component where that stuff happens. And I can see that shadcn uses a mobile navigation component. It is apparently controlled drawer. And he's also handling the on open change where he's setting the drawer to false. Technically, this is also what's happening with the sidebar, except shadcn is not using the sidebar component here. He's using a drawer, and I think the sidebar component uses a sheet. Pretty much the same thing. And if you see, shadcn has created a mobile link component, which takes that on open change. And this mobile link on click sets the navigation to false, the drawer to false. And he's also doing router.push href to string. I think it's to just make sure that either of those navigation works. And I figured this is a better solution, and it also handles my edge case, because no matter what, if you click on it, the navigation will close. So this is what I'm going to implement now. And for now, I'm just gonna remove this component. I don't need this component anymore. I'm just gonna remove it from here. I'm just gonna remove it from my layout too. All right, so I have my link which takes a logo. I have a link which takes icon and label and href. So I think I can pass the icon and label as a React child, and I can just pass the href. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna create a function. Unlike shadcn's component, this link is not just mobile specific. And I think I would just call it app sidebar link. So app sidebar link, and it's gonna take a couple of props. First one would be href, the actual link. And next it's gonna take children. It's gonna be react.react node. And I think I'm gonna also pass class name, because my logo has a class name of wfit. So I'm gonna need that. So let me destructure. And what is it returning here? Returns link, href, class name. Yeah, I think this is fine. And now I can leave my logic for the path name here to close the navigation here. So I'm gonna bring the use sidebar context again. And it was set open mobile const handle navigate. So it's setting the set open mobile to false, and I can just leave the on click here. I'm not doing the router.push part of things because I think the href will handle this. Let's try it out. Okay, and I think I have to now again convert this to a use client. So I think I can just move this component to a different file. So I'm just going to create another component here, app sidebar link.tsx. It's going to be export default app sidebar link sidebar, and I have to import the link from next link, my bad. And I could now replace this thing, app sidebar link href. I can just remove this, and I can just great. Let me copy this here. I'm just gonna replace this. It's item, and here it's logo. So app sidebar link href dashboard. I'm just gonna put the logo inside. And I'm going to put the class name to here. All right. Attempted to call use sidebar from the server, but use sidebar is not a client. Yep, this is because this component also has to be a use client component. Okay, that error should be gone. Let's test it out. I'm gonna refresh. So now I'm on dashboard. I'm gonna go to post. It's a lot more faster. I go to headlines. What is the issue? Can't resolve close sidebar on. I think this is a error due to the dev server. We can just restart the dev server. That should be gone. This is just Next.js caching stuff wherever possible. Stupidity. But okay. Post. All right, this works out. And let's test what happens if I'm on dashboard and I still navigate to dashboard. The on-click will trigger, so this works out. All right, let's just try it out on desktop mode too. Not much difference. All right. Cool. So in my opinion, this is also a better solution. I just did not do this in the first place because I was not sure if link could take on-click or not. And just to be on the safe side, we can also do the same thing which shadcn did, which is use router to use the router and do ref. Right, this is what shadcn does with his mobile nav, and I think this is just a fallback from what Claude tell me. On click triggers first, then comes the href, and by preserving a link instead of using a button, right, your SEO can benefit from the links href. Google's crawlers can't read your JavaScript logic, but it can definitely read the HTML logic with links. So preserving your href makes sense. And in the case of shadcn, that's what he did because it's open documentation and you want good search engine optimization over there, right? Otherwise, I could have just made this into a simple button. That also works for me. All right, let's just test it out one final time so that the router part of things is not messing up there. And I don't have any terminal logs too. That's fine. All right, so this is cool. Now let's see. It took me quite a bit of research to get this solution. Do you think AI could do a better job? Let's try it out. All right, so would AI do a better job? Maybe. Let's try it out. I've undone a couple of changes. So I'm just gonna go to, let's say I'm gonna open Claude. Let's go for Claude. Create a new chart. I'm gonna give it all the context it needs. So let me paste this file. I'm giving it the entire app sidebar file, and I'm gonna tell it the problem is. What the problem is, the sidebar has to close on mobile navigation. So I'm just putting a one-liner. Let's see how it does. Okay, to make the sidebar close on mobile navigation, you'll need to use the sidebar's built-in state management. Here's the updated code that will automatically close the sidebar when a navigation link is clicked on mobile. Interesting. Okay, interesting. I do like this response, but I'm not sure why it was giving me both the solutions here. It was giving me useEffect solution as well as giving me the handle link click solution. Added useEffect for route changes. This automatically closes the sidebar when the route changes. Provides a fallback in case the click handler doesn't work. Interesting, but I think, yeah, we don't need this. But this can work for cases. I mean, this is the same solution which we had, right? We can use this when we are using the back buttons or the next button, because when you're using the browser's back or next buttons, it would change the path name and that would still set the open mobile to false. So I would say if you want that behavior, you can retain this, but I would say you don't need that. But if you need it, yeah, you can definitely use this. And yeah, I think AI is also quite good, but the one issue I can immediately see here is it was able to handle my links, but it definitely did not handle my logo, right? So again, I had to go and I would have to go and do a couple of move around things a bit more. And I think my solution is quite nice. Yeah, maybe reaching out to AI is not that bad too. All right. So let me know if you like this video and I can make more such videos. And I would like to know your feedback about such videos. And if you want me to talk about things in a different way, just let me know. And even the Frontend Hire Discord community is free to join. You can just join and ask any of your questions over there. All right. Thank you and see you in the next video.